My name is Rick Astley, and this is about improving the panel lighting on the Jaguar XK8. This picture shows the before at the top and after at the bottom. And you can see I actually have some problems at the top left of the tachometer in the top picture where the light isn't on. That didn't happen all the time. I don't think the bulb was out. There was something else with the connection of the bulb which was causing it sometimes to be on and sometimes not. So that was a reason in itself to change some of these bulbs. But I also wanted it brighter. I was dissatisfied with the illumination of the panel lamps. My car is a convertible XK8, and in bright sunlight with hard shadow it was sometimes quite difficult to see the gauges. And that was also true of the turn signal lamps. Again, because it's convertible in traffic, with traffic either side of you, it can be very noisy, and I was very annoyed one day when I realized that I'd left my turn signals going for quite a distance. So I wanted to fix that. I wanted to fix the illumination of the gauges, and I wanted to fix the message center brightness so I could read it much better. In order to get to the instrument panel, you need to watch Sam 1174's excellent video on how to remove the instrument panel and get to those bulbs. Sam actually in this video is removing LEDs because he's not satisfied with the brightness, and he's putting conventional lamps back in. Now I note that his video was made in 2010 and I'm making this in 2018, and there's been some remarkable improvements in the efficiency of LEDs, and you'll see from the before and after pictures that were shown immediately before this one that they can be much brighter now. The only thing I want to add to Sam's video is a little bit more detail on disconnecting the black and yellow connectors that connect to the bottom of the instrument panel. They go right into the circuit board, and they're 26-way connectors, and the aggregated insertion and extraction forces become quite high, and so you don't have to wiggle the connector around and pull on it too hard and possibly break the solder connections that are quite delicate onto the circuit board. The connector that has been used has both a latch and a lever action to cam out the connector so that it virtually becomes a zero insertion and extraction force connector, and you don't have to put any load on it at all. So the first thing you have to do is depress the little tine that's shown with the red arrow. Once that tine is depressed, you can move that lever over. The action of moving that lever all the way over, and I think you'll hear a click when you do get it all the way over, doesn't just unlock the connector, it jacks it out. So you should be able to just put your thumb and finger where the white arrows are and just gently pull that connector right out. Once you withdraw the instrument panel altogether as per Sam's instructions, you should be able to put it on a safe surface, and you'll see the 8 bulb holders. There are 4 on the top which are T10s, and they illuminate the gauges, and 4 with various functions along the bottom, and they're T5s. Again, those T5 bulbs only illuminate 4 functions on the instrument panel. There are loads of other lights here, engine check lights, ABS, battery, all sorts of things, but they're all LEDs that are attached to the circuit board and which cannot be easily changed. If you've no interest in putting LED bulbs in and want to just replace the originals, then here's another YouTube video you should watch from Speedometer Bulbs. It's very important you use the right bulbs. I think the T5s are 1.5 watt and the T10s are 3s, but the other T10s on the car that illuminate, say, the side markers are I think 5 watts or 6 watts even, and if you put those in you could damage the insides of the instrument panel because the heat could be excessive. So what does T5 and T10 mean anyway? That refers to the dimension in millimeters of the base of each bulb. So the T5 is 5 millimeter and the T10 is 10 millimeter. And you can see that these filament bulb drawings show that the body is 5 millimeters or 10 millimeters all the way up, but that may not be the case. The bulbs could well be wider at the top than at the bottom, and if they are too wide they may not fit into the back of the Jaguar XK8 instrument panel. On the left I've removed an original T10 bulb, and on the right I've replaced a T10 bulb in the original bulb holder with my chosen LED, and you can see that my chosen LED is rather wider at the top than the original bulb, but nevertheless this one does go into the back of the instrument panel, and it does actually use less power than the original bulb, even though it is much brighter, and that's because it is an LED, and so the amount of heat it will produce will be less than the original bulb, and there's no danger of any damage to the instrument panel as a result. The T10 LED I've chosen to illuminate the instruments is one I've had a lot of experience with, and in another video called Jaguar XK8 lighting modifications I've used it extensively, and I think this picture shows it being used in the side marker lamp. Here the same LED is used for the turn signal side repeater lamps. One of the reasons I like this particular LED is not just because it's bright, but because it's reliable, and I'm using them in the path lights in my backyard, and I've taken the top off one here so you can see it. I've got about 16 or maybe 20 of these lamps. They've been there for about 2 years. They come on at dawn and go off at dusk, so I figure they've all done more than 10,000 hours usage, and there's been no problem whatsoever, not a flicker, not a light out or anything. Here you can see how the LED compares to the original bulb. Although it is a little wider at the top, it nevertheless does go through the hole in the back of the circuit board to accommodate it. This was my source for the bulbs in 2016. They're still around in 2018, but I don't know if they'll still be around when you're watching this video. Turning to the T5s, you can see the original in the middle. It has darkened a bit. I think this is one of the turn signals that gets used rather often. And on either side you can see a couple of the T5s that I considered for this application. This picture shows the bulbs I considered for the T5 positions. The ones across the top I already happen to have for a different application, so I thought I'd take a look at them. The white one, if you test it on a power supply, appears to be much brighter than the other two, but of course if you use it behind a green lens for the turn signal or a blue lens for the high beam warning light, then most of the light gets stripped out because there's a green filter and a blue filter, so all the other colors of the spectrum don't get through. You can see that it's 6.8 millimeters in diameter, and in the bottom middle is the back of the circuit board where it plugs into, and the hole in there is 8.5 millimeters, so it will fit even though it's bigger at the head than the regular bulb, which is only 5 millimeters shown on the bottom left. I actually did change out the regular filament bulb for the blue LED at the top right for the high beam position, but now I regret doing so. You only need the high beam at night, and the regular one is bright enough, and unless you live in some place where you have to drive mile after mile through along deserted roads, then you probably don't use the high beam that much, and the risk of the filament bulb going out is very, very small. However, I did so, and it's rather brighter now than the original blue lamp was, and it could be quite annoying at night. For the turn signal and the message center, I did actually choose the LED at bottom right, and you can see there's a problem. It has a diameter of 9 millimeters, and the hole in the back of the circuit board is only 8.5, so it won't actually fit. It's pretty close, but it won't fit. I chose it because it is bright and I wanted bright light, so I particularly could see messages and turn signals in bright sunlight. However, I had to buy 20 of these, so I thought it doesn't matter if I waste a couple, and the 0.5 millimeter that I had to take off, that's just 20 thousandths of an inch, meant that I had to take 10 thousandths of an inch all the way off around the outside. So I took a little sander on a Dremel and went around very carefully not to touch the LEDs, and in fact I didn't ruin any of them, and I was able to just get that 10,000ths of an inch off so it would fit in the back of the instrument panel. This picture shows the colored T5s that I'd previously bought for a different application, which I decided to try for this one, and for which I only used the blue lamp. And here is the T5 that I use for the turn signals and message center, and for which I had to take 10,000ths of an inch off all the way around in order to fit into the back of the instrument panel. Now there's a problem, of course, because LEDs are polarity sensitive. That D in LED meaning it's a diode that only passes current in one direction. And so if you put it in the wrong way around, it won't work because no current can flow and no power can be produced as a result. So if you do get it around the wrong way, you have to take it out, switch it 180 degrees around and re-plug it in. Now there's two ways to get the polarity correct, and one is by chance, and there's a 256 to 1 chance of getting them all right the first time. So if you happen to do that, I would put everything together, go down to the gas station and buy a scratch card because it's your lucky day. But you'll probably only get about half right. So what you have to do then is install the dash, insert the yellow and black connectors, reconnect the battery, and switch on the lights and the ignition and note which LEDs are out. Then you have to switch off, disconnect the battery, unplug and remove those black and yellow connectors and remove the panel, and then turn around by 180 each of those LEDs that you noted were not illuminated. And there is a risk, and I'm not sure this will happen, but you do have some other connectors not connected at this point, and there's a chance that the engine check light might come on and you may have to have that reset. The other way is to mark the polarity of the LEDs beforehand. Now I have the luxury of a bench power supply and was able to do that, but if you don't, there is another way to do it. What you can do is test them by plugging them into the rear marker light, and that's quite easy to remove. You do it preferably when the car is cold and the muffler is therefore cold, and you get underneath and you press that clip with the red arrow on the left, and you should be able to pop that lamp right out. You can then hold the bulb holder A and turn the lens B counterclockwise about a quarter turn and expose the bulb underneath. What you can do then is turn the side lights on and then remove the original bulb from the side light and plug each of your LEDs in one by one. When they don't light, pull them out, turn around 180 and plug them in again so they do light, and mark with a Sharpie or some other felt tip pen that side of the bulb close to the top where you'll be able to see it later on, which is on the same side as that red and white wire that has the red arrow pointing to it in this illustration. It's a little tricky, but you can do this for the T5s too in the same socket. Although that socket is designed for a T10, it will accept the T5, and with a little wiggling you should be able to establish which way round the bulb illuminates and mark the T5s in the same way accordingly. Once you have all the LEDs marked up with their polarity, then you can put them into the correct bulb holders for the T5 or T10 as appropriate for the instrument panel, and then look for that mark and put it to the bottom of the instrument panel where I've marked with a plus sign, so that they go in at the right polarity for each of the bulbs. All of the bulbs are the same in that the positive, the side you have marked, goes toward the bottom of the instrument panel. And this is the comparison of what you see when you first switch on and the car goes through the system check. It puts on all the lights in the panel, and of course we said that the T5s only lit up 4 positions, and that was the two turn signals, the high beam and the message center, and all those other lights that light up for engine check and ABS and everything. They're LEDs that are attached to the circuit board and can't be changed.